Hi, boys and girls. Welcome back. I'm here to tell you about one of my favorite people. And by my outfit, do you think you can guess who that person could be? Well, this person wasn't a musician and wasn't known for music. Although in part two, I will talk about music in this person's life. But for part one, I just want to tell you how special this person is to our country and all over the world. Who is Ben Carson? He was born over 60 years ago in Detroit, Michigan, up here in the northern part of our country. And he was born with an older brother. When he was 8 years old, they found out something not so nice about his dad. So his father had to leave the family, and his mom was left all alone to raise him and his older brother, Curtis. And so, because they were poor and all alone, his mom decided that it would be better if they move to Boston to be with an aunt and uncle who could help them in the meantime. And when things got better, they were able to go back to Detroit. And this is his childhood home. And this is the street that he grew up on. And this is his mom, Sonia Carson. She often prayed and asked God for wisdom because she knew it was a tough job to be a single mom, but she knew she couldn't do it all by herself. So she knew she needed God's help. And she worked hard. She did 2 or 3 jobs, usually cleaning homes of rich people. And she never felt horrible about working in rich people's homes. She didn't feel jealous about them. She would just often dream and look forward to the day that, well, maybe someday my sons could have beautiful homes just like this. And she would see all the books in their home libraries. And she thought, someday my sons could be as smart as all the books here could teach them. And so one day she went home after a long day's work, and she saw that her boys were lying on the couch watching TV. And she thought, what? This can't be happening. I am not working 2, 3 jobs, working so hard every single day, only to have you boys stay home and watch TV doing nothing. So she told them, I have something for you to do. You have to go to the library and do 2 extra book reports a week. And they said, but mom, we already have homework from our teachers from school. And she said, I don't care. You're going to do 2 extra book reports a week just for me and no more TV. And so they went to the public library every single week. And this opened up a whole new world for Ben because up until this time, he was always made fun of at school. He would always be laughed at and made fun of because everybody thought he was the class dummy. He didn't know the answers in class, and all the kids always laughed at him. But when he started doing those extra book reports for his mom, he just realized, wow, there's so much more I could learn from these books. Science, studying rocks and animals and plants. This is so fun. This is so interesting. It opened up a whole new world for him. And so in 5th grade, he was on the bottom of his class. And that's when everybody didn't think he was very smart. But by 6th grade, people realized, oh, he knows all the answers. Every time the teacher asked questions, he knew everything. And so the friends who made fun of him were now turning to him for help with their homework. And so while he was growing up, another problem he had was his temper. Since he didn't have a dad, he was always angry and he didn't know what to do about that. because there were times he got so mad at his friends or his relatives. He could just easily argue, and it could be out of control, and he almost wants to just hurt them. And there was this one time it got so bad, he realized he could have killed or hurt that relative so badly. That person could have wound up in the hospital and he could have been in jail. So thank God nothing happened like that. But he ran all the way home and he locked himself in the bathroom for 2.5 hours. And during that time, he had his Bible and he just kept praying. He asked God, I need your help. I can't be angry like this for the rest of my life. I don't know what to do. I can't keep hurting people and I can't let this control me. Please, God, take my anger away. And for 2.5 hours, it was like he was wrestling about all of this with God. But when he gave it to God, God answered his prayers. And this is what changed his life. Because ever since then, he wasn't that same angry boy anymore. And so, because of that, he was able to succeed and do well in school. When he read all those extra books for his mom, he dreamed of becoming a doctor, and that dream came true. He went to a famous university, Yale, and that's where he met his wife. And after graduating, he went on to medical school and they got married. And after getting married, they had 3 boys: Murray, Benjamin Jr., and Royce. And as a young doctor, he got a good job in Johns Hopkins University in Maryland. And he was the youngest brain surgeon in the entire country. And he was very good at what he did. And everybody knew he was so good at it that they turned to him for one of the most challenging issues of that time. And that is, there are some twins, when they're born, they're stuck together. They're called Siamese twins. So some of these twins, when they come out of into the world, they're attached at the head, maybe by the neck, or stuck at the hip. There's certain part of their body where they're stuck to each other. And they knew that Dr. Carson was such a good surgeon that they could turn to him and ask him for help. And so he was the very first doctor who was able to successfully separate twins who were born stuck together. And so he helped people like that even in other countries. And more cases like that came up in America. And so he helped a lot more families here. And so that's how he got famous and well known. And oftentimes people would ask him, well, what made you so good at what you do? But he'd always say it's because of his mom, that she worked hard, she never gave up on them. And the interesting thing is, they never knew that she did not know how to read. All that time, she asked him and his older brother to do extra book reports for her. She always pretended that she knew what they wrote, and she would even mark up their papers with red ink pen and say, do this again. No, I don't like this part. Why don't you rewrite this part of your book report? You made a mistake here. And she just pretended so that she could show them how school was important. Because she grew up in a time when little girls were not encouraged to finish school. And she knew this would be very important for the future of her boys. And so when they found out later as adults, they realized how much their mom gave them with all her hard work and sacrifice. And oftentimes, there's a saying in English: when we think things are hard, we all joke that, oh, it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery. And then Dr. Carson would always joke, well, my mom raised a rocket scientist, his brother Curtis became a rocket scientist. And she also raised me, a brain surgeon. So if people think and say that things are too hard, he would always say, well, look at my mom. Look at what she did. And so I'm going to end this part one, with an inspirational video by Dr. Carson.
Well, I was fortunate enough to have a mother who believed in me when nobody else did, and she refused to allow me to fail. And she only allowed us to watch a small amount of television, and she made us read books. When everybody else was outside playing, we had to read books. But in the process of reading those books, I read about a lot of people, successful people, and I came to realize that the person who has the most to do with what happens to you is you. It's not somebody else. It's not some outside influence. It's not some environmental factor. It's you and the choices that you make. And once I realized that, poverty didn't bother me anymore because I knew I could change that. Nothing really bothered me anymore because I knew I could change it, whatever it was. And that's the message that I try to get across to other people. It doesn't matter what the circumstances were that you were born in, as long as you have a normal brain. Because the human brain is the most fabulous organ system in the universe. All human brains are. And I can tell you as a brain surgeon, when I open that scalp and I take off that bone and I'm looking at that brain, I cannot tell whether that brain is from Africa or Scandinavia or Iran or South America, because they're all the same. And the fact of the matter is, that's the thing that really makes us who we are. The external stuff is just wrapping. It really doesn't mean anything. I think people put far too much emphasis on the wrong things. Well,
So now you see why I think he's such a special person. Come back for part two.